That's great. Hi everyone!
Hello.
Welcome back to Maple Live. I'm Kish.
And I'm Dan. And we're happy to be back after such a long hiatus. Kish was away for a couple weeks, and then right when she came back, I left for a couple weeks. So now we're happy to both be back for a long stretch here so we can have more regular Maple Live offerings.
Yeah. So the theme of today's episode is cultivating unreasonable joy. And we have a very special guest, Resident Joe, who is one of the teachers for Maple Fundamentals and leads our online teaching efforts, and is just a very joyful person in our community. I'm just thinking about how during the evening chanting he just radiates joy and love and metta.
Yeah, and in addition we have a clip from Soryu. We have our regular 10 seconds or less segment with the prompt being, what is happiness? And then we have the picks of the week and some updates from the past couple weeks and some information about upcoming events and offerings in the Cedar Network.
Yeah, and to say more about the clip that you're about to watch, while you weren't here, Soryu led a very mini retreat. It was like a 2-day retreat. And at the end, during the Q&A, this is what that clip is from. And the topic of the clip is how to find real joy in spiritual training. And I think it'll tie very well into the interview that we'll hear too.
Yeah, and the wider theme for the episode, right? Cultivating unreasonable joy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So we hope that it's thought-provoking and we hope that you enjoy it.
You know, it's funny. The Buddha seems to have done a pretty good job. He's well known. And he started with suffering. That is the doorway into the spiritual path, according to him. When he talked about the miracle of a Buddha, of a Tathagata, he said, what's incredible is that this world that's fascinated by conflict listens to me, and I teach non-conflict. Isn't that fascinating and incredible? This world that's fascinated with attachment listens to me, and I teach non-attachment. So in some way, there is something in us that is deeper than our mere attachment to sensual pleasure, that is open to a deeper joy than that. There's a kind of happiness that people have, and you can feel it in them. Of course, the Buddha is a good example. St. Francis of Assisi is a good example. These people who are living in poverty, who have nothing, and yet have happiness, that's what changes the world. When people see that, of look how hard you're working, it's so difficult, and yet you're happy, that changes everything. I know for me in the training, as I did it, that was the question. How much joy can I experience while I sweep? How much joy can I experience as I, say, eat? Meaning, here I am eating a normal meal. Is it sparkling? Are the flavors resonating through my whole body? Am I shocked at this experience? Am I struggling, wrestling with the question of life and death as I'm eating another being?
All right, hello everybody, and this week for our interview we have resident Joe Pucci, and Joe is somebody who we feel works very hard and is somebody who embodies unreasonable joy. In many of my interactions with Joe, I end up laughing and feeling his joy. So thank you for being with us.
Thank you, my friend.
And so this week's episode is titled Cultivating Unreasonable Joy. When you hear unreasonable joy, what does that mean to you, or what comes to mind for you?
Well, I think it helps to start with clarifying what unreasonable joy is not. And so when we think about joy or happiness, the traditional joy that we're familiar with is dependent on condition. So we tend to pin our joy on health. We need a body that is comfortable, that is in good health. We tend to pin it on wealth. We need a certain amount of resources so that we can support our loved ones, support ourselves. We pin it on our family, our loved ones, our children, our parents, our brothers and sisters. We also might pin it on our mind, our obsession in our modern culture with the need to understand what's happening. And all of these things are, of course, beautiful aspects of a life worth living. However, pinning all of our happiness on these conditions is suffering. And so when we talk about unreasonable joy, we're talking about a joy that is not dependent on any condition. Not dependent on the health, the wealth, the mind, and the body. And so an unreasonable joy is as we begin to deepen into our contemplative, into our spiritual practice, we begin to open up to a joy that is not dependent on any condition. And therefore it is always present. And from an outside perspective, there's no reason that someone should be that joyous. There's nothing apparently that is creating that sense of joy. And yet here you are just in wonder, of awe of each unfolding moment. And so when I think of unreasonable joy, I think of that, of this joy that is beyond conditions. And there really is no reason that you should be that happiness. But just in each unfolding moment, you are experiencing this profound state of wonder.
That's beautiful. Unreasonable, no reason, no condition, just joy.
Yeah.
And do any examples come to mind when you're saying that of an experience you've had with unreasonable joy?
Yeah.
Is there anything vivid that comes to mind? I know when I'm saying it, something comes to my mind. Just being here in Vermont in this autumn weather. I remember yesterday just sitting down and smiling and just being so present with the changing of the leaves and the crispness of the air and just smiling and feeling that joy. Is there anything for you that comes to mind when you think of...
When I think about this sort of joy, I think about the first retreat I ever went on. Shortly after graduating university, I took the leap of faith to do my first silent meditation retreat when I was in Thailand. And the first 4 days were terrible. Some of the hardest days of my life, actually. And on that fourth morning, I woke up to a joy, a clarity, a boundless love that I had never experienced before. It really didn't make any sense to me at that time. I didn't have any reference point for understanding what was happening. And in fact, all of my external distractions, all of the things that had brought me joy previously were stripped of me. And I was left with just my mind. So what was creating this joy? What was creating this happiness? And I remember on that day, the world was bright and vivid and clear in a way that I hadn't experienced before. And there was one moment that stood out, which was I was walking down the path and I noticed this sort of shimmer in the light on this tree. And I look a little bit closer, and there was a spider that was weaving its first part of the web. And I watched the spider build its entire web from start to finish.
Wow.
Over like an hour.
Wow.
And it was just like jaw dropped, just like in complete wonder of this mystery that was unfolding before me. And previously I probably would have just walked right by it. And so there was a sense of everything around me is just magnificent. Each step that I'm taking, the animals and the birds and the spiders around me, the color of the clouds, the way that the people are walking by me in silence, and how much depth there might be in their life right now, even though I don't get to speak to them in that environment. It seemed that everything was just lit up, and so that's one of the first memories I have of this sort of like unreasonable joy.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. And in both responses, you touched on how you're, deepening your widening of experiencing this joy is related to your contemplative practice, your meditation practice.
Yeah.
So I think it would be interesting to hear more explicitly how the deepening of your meditation practice has impacted your levels of joy or your experience of unreasonable joy.
Yeah. So I think it helps to clarify that I was a pretty happy child. However, I was happy because I was very privileged and had many conditions and beautiful support from my family and friends, and a lot of external parts of my environment were put into such a place where I was able to have tremendous comfort and support and love. And that brought a certain joy. And my parents always told me to follow my heart and feel into what's most important to me, and then I was able to do those things. And so that itself created a sort of baseline level of joy, which I feel very fortunate to have had in my life. However, the contemplative practice then brought in this more nuanced and deeper and greater sense of joy that we've been speaking to. And it's this joy that is continuously present in each moment. It's this sort of wonder and awe in each unfolding experience of our life. And so, if you come into the meditation hall where we are during a retreat, many of us are just staring at the floor or against a wall, and from an external perspective, we probably look insane. But internally, for many people, especially longer residents who have been here, there's a tremendous amount of joy and happiness and bliss and wonder in the journey that is unfolding as we dive into the depths of our being. And while I'm just beginning to scratch the surface of that journey, the retreats that I've been on here and the one that I did before I came to the monastic academy have been by far the happiest moments of my life, like bar none. And so that sort of stillness of mind, and then the sparkle that begins, the world just lights up, and there's a sense of wonder and joy that comes from that sort of depth of contemplative practice.
That's beautiful. And in my experience, each retreat, in the integration period, that joy tends to carry over longer into non-retreat weeks. So I imagine the more retreats, the more immersive experiences, the more sustained that joy becomes.
Yes.
Beautiful. That's a really nice picture.
I think one more thing I want to add is what we consider joy, at least for me, also shifted a little bit. So joy is, of course, its own emotion, as is sadness or fear or whatever it is. But the joy that we're alluding to is also the byproduct of experiencing the full range of emotions that life has to offer. And so I've shifted my perspective of what happiness is while I've been here. So in the beginning of my contemplative practice, I was skilled at intentionally cultivating joy. But now I'm more attuned to experiencing sadness and fear and shame and gratitude and all of the full richness of the human experience. And experiencing that richness is itself a sort of fulfillment and joy that is actually greater than just prioritizing trying to be happy all the time and not experience sadness. And so I think it's important to make that clarification about what is joy in the context of this path and training as well.
So what I'm hearing is, as your practice deepens, you become more present and become more aware of the emotions or what's happening in the moment, which leads to increased joy and increased experience of each emotion and each feeling.
Exactly.
That's beautiful. And Joe is also leading the online educational initiatives for Maple, Maple Online, and sharing the ecology of practices that we do here at Maple with a wider audience. So I'm curious if you want to share a little more about Maple Online, and I'm curious, has that brought you an increased sense of joy, being able to share the practices with others?
Yeah.
And have you noticed the people who participate in the courses, have you noticed them gaining an increased ability to experience joy in the full range of emotions?
Yeah. So Maple Online began at the beginning of the pandemic, and like many organizations, we were forced to shift our in-person and guest programming to an online format. And so, as you mentioned, we took our ecology of practices, the main training frameworks that we do here, and shifted them into an intimate and experiential online journey, which has primarily taken the course of a 6-week online cohort-based course. And we've now run 4 cohorts with over 50 people from more than a dozen countries.
Wow.
So it's been amazing to have that sort of diverse group undertaking these practices for realizing their potential for the benefit of the world. And the feedback has been incredible. It's been really spectacular. And some of the testimonials that we've gotten have brought me incredible joy. We recently finished a course on Sunday, and several of the participants said it was some of the most meaningful journey that they've undertaken in the last 20 years of their life. Wow. And that they're discovering new meaning in their relationships, in their life, in their work, in their practice that they haven't experienced before. And so there definitely is an increased joy that I've seen just subjectively in seeing how they're showing up from the first session to the 6th session. But it's also worth noting, as I mentioned, that different perspective on what joy is. There's also opening up to sadness. There's an opening up to the fact that they haven't been authentic in their relationships over the past 5 years of their life, or that they're doing work that actually isn't in alignment with what's most worth loving. But that struggle, that journey of opening up to what we might consider those more difficult emotions as well, that is a process of unfolding joy and fulfillment. And so yes, this traditional sense of joy, of happiness, is increased in the participants, especially as they enter into a sangha, into a community, into spiritual friendship that they've largely been deprived of during this time of social isolation. But there's also this sense of authenticity and a full richness of experience in their lives that also brings a deeper sense of fulfillment.
Beautiful. And if folks want to learn more about Maple Online or other educational offerings, where can they go to find these?
You can go to monasticacademy.com, and then under our programs, you can find Maple Fundamentals. And then I encourage you also to sign up for our newsletter on our homepage, because we're about to revamp our online offerings to include more accessible and more frequent conversations and practice groups and workshops. Because while the cohort-based course has been incredibly successful so far, it also requires a good amount of time and trust in us to undertake a 6-week course. And so we're hoping to offer more frequent educational initiatives going forward.
Beautiful. Well, Joe, thank you for putting in the work in your own journey to cultivate and bring forth this joy, and also thank you for spreading that. Putting your energy out there to share it with others. It's truly a gift. And thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks so much, Dan.
Awesome.
Been a pleasure.
Likewise. And from here, we're going to hear from a few more residents in the 10 seconds or less clip. And the prompt this week was, what is happiness? So you can see what other people here at Maple feel about happiness. Hey, Stephen, in 10 seconds or less, what is happiness?
Happiness is peace independent of what's going on.
But, in 10 seconds or less, what is happiness?
Yeah, like all these
Sharing love with friends. To me is accepting what's here and now and sharing that energy with those around.
happiness is opening to joy beyond yourself.
Happiness is our natural state.
It's like here and here. Yeah, when everything goes away, the thing that's left, the thing that just wants to help and love and care, that's happiness.
Inez, what is happiness in 10 seconds or less?
It is washing your feet washed.
What is happiness, and where and why? Is it here, on this day, in this chair? I thought I caught, and then, but no. I caught, was caught, reached out, withdrew, gave up thought to think of you.
Happiness is here and now. I have dropped my worries. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. But I don't need to hurry.
Well, we hope that you enjoyed that, and I myself really enjoyed the interview that you did with Joe and was very touched by what he said and what he shared, and I'm so glad too that we're able to share the training that we do here with others in the world. And I know I myself, before I became a resident, I came here for a couple circling retreats, and like I think when you're here you forget how impactful the practices are,
Right.
and I know that those made a huge difference in my own life.
Yeah, and same like with that 10 seconds or less clip, the process of recording that brought me so much joy.
Aww.
Just experiencing different people's energy and creativity and uniqueness, and so it's been a very joyful process putting this week's episode together, and I imagine the updates that we're going to share as well from the past 2 weeks are full of joy.
So first we have an update from the Chautauqua tour. We have a recording of Autumn.
So I'm leading the Mobile Monastery Chautauqua tour, and Pan, who also trained at Maple, is leading the Big Dragon Energy tour, and we're collaborating on a 3.5-month tour across the whole entire country, and we're currently in the process of the third day of a weekend retreat here in Ashland, and we're going to be doing more events in Eugene and Portland and Montana and Minnesota and all the way back to Michigan. And it's been so inspiring to share these practices with people who wouldn't otherwise necessarily be able to come all the way out to Maple or Oak or Willow to experience them. And I feel really excited about offering more workshops and connecting with more people and continuing on the journey.
And the second update is future villagers Ananda and Maitri got married last week. They were so kind and invited many of us residents, some apprentices and guests to their wedding. And unfortunately Dan wasn't here because he was
in the thing. I'm in here. Okay.
Yeah. He was on the Chautauqua tour, I believe, and but it was just really beautiful, and it was the first wedding that I ever went to, and it was really special. There was a lot of love, and Sori was officiating it.
A joyous event.
Good. And the third update is also related to Ananda, but very different. He's working with the Buildings and Grounds team here, which Dan is heading, and the apprentices are all in, and they're cleaning the barn.
Yay!
Very exciting,
Yeah.
as Ananda might say.
Yes.
And the fourth update, Aditya started being head monk this week. So for those of you who don't know, head monk is a role here. It's an awakening role. And they basically just do everything needed to preserve the container for monastic training, and it's an amazing leadership role, and we love him, and it's exciting, I would say.
Yeah, it's great to see somebody at the beginning of a new role. For me, seeing somebody really grow into the role, I think is beautiful, and seeing the role grow into them.
Yeah.
So for me, it's also exciting seeing this transition and see where it goes.
Yeah, the head monks are all different.
Right. Right. So.
And then the last update for this episode is that we have 3 new residential members who joined us recently, Robert, Shirag, and Nikita. And the residential membership program is a way for people to, I would say, like, be in this community and have kind of the enforced structure of living in a monastic container while still being able to work or do their own thing. So it's kind of like a nice blend of both, and they participate in the Awakening Weeks and other retreats that we do.
Yeah, it's like a customized monastic training,
Yeah.
So it's cool, yeah. And as Kish said, a lot of people continue the work they do and also engage with the community. So it's a nice combo.
I think it's really special.
Yeah, it's nice too for the community to have new faces and people doing different things and bringing different experiences.
Yeah. And now for the practice tip of the week, related to joy, obviously.
Yes.
Had to do it. So this tip is actually from Matt, who is behind the camera, so to speak.
There he is.
There is his hand and maybe part of his arm. His tip is that sometimes it may feel challenging to cultivate joy. So instead of that, what you can do is look for existing joy that you have and bring your attention to it, and slowly, I think this is what he said, like, you'll start to notice different pockets and then they'll combine together, and then soon your whole body will become filled with joy and it will be amazing. Is that correct?
That's exactly right.
Wow. And something I do, which kind of came up in the beginning of the interview with Joe, is spend time in nature. And just simply looking at the patterns on leaves and slowing down and spending more time looking at the details. For me, that reawakens awe, and with that awe comes a childish joy and like a smile. And so yeah, also nature, which has been a theme of many of the previous episodes. So that's also one of my practices for cultivating joy.
I would really associate the words childish awe with you.
Wow. Wow. That's really nice to hear. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else to say about practice this week?
And I think another theme that came up in the interview was just presence. Just being present with what's there. And practice is all about cultivating presence in whatever way that is, depending on the technique. But just being there and not being distracted or multitasking or thinking of Idaho when you're in Vermont, So presence, I think, is another, I don't know if that's really a practice tip, but, being more present, I think, is associated with bringing more joy into your life and into the world.
Yeah. You heard it here first.
Maybe not first, but maybe for some people.
It was a joke.
Yeah. Oh, well. That's a good joke.
Okay. Sorry if I'm being weird.
No. Weird is okay. And what about the picks this week? Do we have some picks?
We do have some picks.
Cool.
So, the first pick is from the wedding. As we mentioned, Ananda and Maitri, future villagers, got married. Their wedding was very beautiful. It was in New Hampshire, and they shared some of the photos that the photographer took recently, and here's one of them, which I just love. It's like, I mean, I don't know if I should explain the whole thing, but they were on a boat, and then they got off the boat, and then they walked into these two lines of their friends and family and Peppy, their dog, and then we were singing and we hugged them. It was just a very beautiful moment, probably one of my favorite moments in the whole wedding.
I think you can see the joy in the picture.
The second photo is, maybe you could also see the joy in these people. These are the people in the Willow 3-month residential intensive. And something that happens, maybe this is like with all group photos, but the group photos that we take here at Maple and I guess across the different branches, we take serious photos or like normal photos, and then we take silly photos. So this is the silly photo of these people. Among them is Ryushin and Seishin and Virabhadra and the other people in the residential intensive. And later in the upcoming events section, we'll share more information about what's happening with Willow. In the third picture, nature, back to nature.
Yes.
Fall is here, in Vermont at least. I mean, right now, sunset-ish, but you can see that the leaves have all changed colors, and it's really quite beautiful.
Yeah, and I drove from New York 3 days ago, and the ride through the Adirondacks coming into Vermont and then up through Vermont was just breathtaking. The colors, the changing of the seasons, so lots of joy, very joyous.
Now for the upcoming events, get my laptop.
Yes, so the upcoming events this week. Ready? Okay, so the first one here is, the first few will be from the Chautauqua Tour. This first one, which will be on October 12th and is a drop-in event in Veneta, Oregon, offers embodiment, interpersonal meditation, and nature connection. The next event, which will be in Bend, Oregon, will be a 3-day immersion. So this is one that you want to get there on the first day and try to really immerse yourself in the offerings. And this will be from October 21st to October 23rd. The next event will be a Halloween hangout with meditation, magic masks, music, movement, massage, and tea. So many M's and a T in Stevensville, Montana, which is Autumn's mother's home. The person who is kind of leading the Chautauqua Tour, and this will be October 31st and October 30th, so a 2-day event. And the final offering from the Chautauqua Tour will be at Pan's parents' house, the other person leading the tour, who is leading the Big Dragon Energy Tour, which is in collaboration with the Chautauqua Tour. And this will be movement, meditation, sound activation, and nature connection. And this will also be a drop-in event. And here at the Monastic Academy, we have an Awakening Week coming up in November. It'll be from November 12th to 19th, and the dates might change. So if you're interested, you can go to the website and fill out a form expressing your interest, and that will keep you posted on whether there are any date changes. And similarly, in December, we will be offering another Awakening Week, which will be from December 10th to December 17th. And again, fill out the form, send an email if you have any inquiries. And yeah, we hope that you can join us in these retreats. And from the in-person to the online world, Willow is offering a number of webinars and cohort-based sessions, the first of which is a Wake Up 6-day chant and meditation, where they will open their doors and welcome people virtually into their morning meditation and chanting. This will be led by Daniel Thorson and Sei Shin, and the current residents there in the Willow Intensive program. So this is your chance to experiment with how having a monastic morning affects the rest of your day. And the next...
What days is that?
Oh, this will be, thank you for the reminder, October 12th, bright and early at 5 a.m. I believe that's Eastern time?
Yeah.
So 5 a.m. Eastern time. So it'll be a 6-day, so the 10th to the 16th or 17th here.
The 12th.
I'm sorry, 12th to the 17th. Yeah. So October 12th to October 17th, Wake Up 6-day chant and meditation. And the next offering is Harmonizing to Emerge, a Stoic at the Monastic Academy. So Peter Limberg, who runs the podcast The Stoa, will be participating in the scheduling at Willow for 2 days, and will discuss his experiences live on the Stoa with Ryu and Sei and the other Willow residents. And this will be airing on October 17th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And the next offering is a 4-week online introduction to the Monastic Academy's harmonization model. And in this training, you'll be introduced to meditation, emotional healing, relational practice, ethics, and emptiness. And this will run on Tuesdays from October 19th. So it'll be October 19th, the 26th, and November 2nd and November 9th from 11:30 to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And don't worry, all of this information will be linked in the description for the video. So if you want to capture these dates and times and links, you can just check the description under the video. And the final offering coming out of Willow is a 4-week course with Sei, which Sei Shin will be leading. And it'll be a deep dive into the Jade method, which is the standard meditation technique that we use here at the Monastic Academy. And this will support people to go deeply into transformative and healing states. And this 4-week workshop will take place on Fridays. And the 4 weeks will be October 22nd and October 29th, with the final 2 weeks being November 5th and November 12th. And this will take place from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So again, check the links in the description for more information about these events. And I'm sure if you have questions or inquiries, you can reach out to Ryu or Sei or anybody on the Willow team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to ask, because I haven't asked you yet.
Yeah.
How were your experiences joining the Chautauqua tour?
Yeah. So one of the weeks I was away, I was with Autumn and Pan on the Chautauqua tour, and it was awesome. The first we had an event in Sedona, just a pop-up event where we didn't know who was going to show up, how the event was going to turn out, and we had a beautiful showing and a beautiful gathering. So that was wonderful, and then we headed to California. We took the road trip, and we had 2 pop-up events in Golden Gate Park, or 1 pop-up event and 1 full-day meditation and sound activation and juggling retreat. So it was beautiful. It was really nice to kind of see how they were flowing and working together, and getting these practices and perspectives to people and communities that often weren't aware of these practices. So it was really nice to kind of see this happening instead of just hearing about it and seeing it through pictures. So it was really great to be a part of it. And also leaving, it gave me excitement about the future possibilities and reinvigorated my personal passion in juggling and in connecting with sacred clown energy. So it really brought back to life a lot of that childish awe that you see in me. And so now I'm back here, but still kind of riding that wave and cultivating those interests of mine. So it was really great for me and awesome to spend time with Autumn and Pan and Sky out in Oak as well. So thank you for asking.
Thanks for sharing. I love the phrase sacred clown energy.
Oh yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for today. One question that I have for everyone watching, we're hoping to, now that we're both here, again, we're hoping to do Maple Live on a more regular schedule so that people can so that you all can know when it's happening and put it in your schedules. So if you have any preferences, we're obviously on a monastic schedule here, right. So it's not as flexible, but let us know like if a particular date or time works best for you. We would love to have as many of you coming live as possible.
Yeah. So we'll see, and hopefully we can accommodate to as many people as possible and have this be interactive too. Yes. We hope to have people live so we can see comments or questions that come up during the live stream, and then we can directly respond while on air. So if you have any burning questions about practice, about meditation, about Maple or any of the other offerings in the Cedar Network, this is a good way to directly get those answered. So we do welcome and invite and encourage folks that are watching these videos to tune in live and to be with us. Share your energy, share your presence, and share your joy.
Yes, indeed.
Indeedy.
Okay, well, thanks for tuning in to this week's Maple Live. We loved having you. I loved being here.
Yes. Yes. And Maple Live just brings me so much joy. I think brings us so much joy. So, we're very happy and grateful to be doing this. I speak for both of us. I imagine you would agree with that.
Yeah. Well, let's just say yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Maple Live. It's just that personally, I'm still working a lot with joy in my practice, and for some reason, it's easier for me to feel sadness than joy. But I would say that this episode has made me very happy.
Yay. Cool. Well, goodbye for now, and we hope to see you soon. See you.